Hey guys, Tyson Dever here. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're continuing to stay safe in this crazy world that we're in right now. Thank you so much for joining this session. A little bit about me before we get going. Again, my name is Tyson Dever. I grew up out in far west Texas in a little town called Andrews. That's out there by Midland, Odessa for you Texas folks. Awesome place to grow up. I graduated from there in 2001. I spent a couple years playing college baseball. One at Lubbock Christian University in Lubbock, and also at Howard Junior College in Big Spring. Had some shoulder injuries that forced me to call it a career. And in 2003, I moved to San Marcos to finish my degree at Texas State University there in San Marcos. Awesome school, amazing experience. I even found things called trees and water. I didn't know this stuff existed coming from West Texas, but just an awesome place. I had a car crash in 2005 that completely changed my whole life. Completely derailed the plans I had laid before myself. The path that I was down just completely rocked my world. I'm going to go into more detail about what happened to me and my story here in just a little bit. It's hard to tell in a video, but I'm sitting here in a wheelchair, paralyzed at the waist. But again, I'm going to go into a lot more detail about that here in just a second. Ended up going back to school there at Texas State. I finished my degree in 2007. Ended up being a teacher and a coach for 2 years, which is a lifelong dream and something that I wanted to do since I was a little bitty kid. So I didn't want a wheelchair to stop me from achieving that goal, so I just went for it. I just continued on that path and just went after it. I was a teacher and a coach for 2 years, and in 2009, I had the opportunity to start speaking full-time. Now, I kind of jumped out there, just leap of faith if you want to call it that. I had no idea what this looked like. I didn't know where it was going. And looking back now, it's been a truly awesome experience. I'm truly blessed to be able to do what I do. When I was teaching and coaching, I just felt like there was a little bit more that I could give at the end of the day. I love the interaction with the students and the teaching and the coaching part of it, but I just felt like there was a little bit more I could give. And this speaking, motivational speaking and traveling the country, sharing my story, I think is just that little bit that I was looking for. I'm also a team member here at Teens in the Driver's Seat. I've been speaking with Teens in the Driver's Seat for the past 6 to 7 years. But last year, Russell came to me with an opportunity and an idea to bring me on board here at Teens in the Driver's Seat and take what I was doing in the speaking world and combine that with what they were doing over here at Teens in the Driver's Seat in the traffic safety world and combine those two and really work with their team. And it's just been an awesome experience and a true win-win situation. So again, I'm a team member here. I'm a motivational speaker, travel the country, talking to a lot of different groups from high school students all the way up to Fortune 500 companies. And so a lot of different places, a lot of different people, and a lot of different age groups. But I'm truly blessed at what I get to do and this opportunity that's been given to me. So that's just a little bit about me. When I'm on stage, a lot of times what I hear is, what happened to you? You know, why are you rolling around in a wheelchair? Tell us your story. And everybody just wants to know right up front, what happened? And so that's what I want to do today. I want to show you a video that's going to tell my story in a nutshell. It's going to tell you exactly what happened to me. Now, I do need to preface this and say it is intense. Okay, you're going to hear a 911 call. You're going to see some pictures. You're going to hear a lady in the background say it's definitely a fatality. And if you listen closely enough, you're actually going to hear me in the background fighting for my life. It is intense, but please know that life is good. I'm here today with a smile on my face, but I'm going to show you this video so you'll better understand what happened. I'm going to follow up this video with another version to kind of fill in the gaps that the video doesn't cover. But until then, sit back and check it out.
Corvette was hit from the back. Okay, hold on. Huge truck. There's definitely been a fatality. Definitely.
There's a car on fire. Looks like there's someone stuck in there.
Okay. Have you reported an accident on 1626 at Elm Grove?
I'm sorry.
Are you reporting an accident?
Yes, I was just in it.
Okay, hold on just a second.
Help me! Help me! I can't. All right, he's on fire! All right.
Okay, sir? Sir?
Well, he's paying the price because he's paralyzed. And people living here in Hays County say it was an accident just waiting to happen.
I just remember looking up and seeing fire on the dash of the car and saying, I've got to get out of here.
The next thing 22-year-old Tyson Dever remembers is waking up paralyzed from the waist down.
My day starts just like anybody else's does. I wake up, I put my socks on, I put my shoes on, I get into my wheelchair. You walk and I roll, and that's really the only difference. I'm doing everything I'd be doing today if I was still walking. I just do it a little bit differently.
I come up to the lake quite a bit, quite often to see Tyson and visit and just hang out. March 11th, 2005 will always be a very special day to us, a day that I will never ever forget. Within the snap of a finger or within a phone call, our lives changed forever.
You know, I remember the sound, and I remember the smell and the fire, and I remember being trapped inside this burning car thinking, man, I've got to get out of here. My back was against the wall. The only place to go was up for me. There was no quit. There was no give up. That's not in my vocabulary. That's not who I am. That's not how I was raised. You know, change is going to happen. Whether we like it or not, it's inevitable. You know, I'm a strong believer in who you are as a person before adversity determines how you respond to it.
I'll never forget him trying to learn how to get from the wheelchair into a vehicle. He was getting so frustrated, but he was not going to quit. That's how he did all through rehab. He just pushed himself just in record times.
It's a daily battle. You know, just like everybody, you have your good days and bad. You know, you're going to have those days where it truly does take everything in you just to get out of bed, put yourself in a wheelchair and go do life that day. But quitting is not an option. I didn't want a wheelchair to stop me from reaching my dream of being a coach, which is what I want to do since I was this tall, and so I just went for it. But when I was teaching and coaching, I had students in my classroom that maybe they had a terrible home life, or maybe they had things going on in their life, and they were just shutting down, they were stopping. The big thing to me was, look, it doesn't have to be like that. That doesn't have to define you. And it just motivated me to want to push them to be better, to be the best that they can be. You know, no matter what's happened in the past. I can't change what happened to me, nor did I have a choice in what happened to me, but I did have a choice in how I responded to it. When I'm on stage, I'm in the element. This is my story. I want somebody to hear it that needs it. If my situation is gonna help one person change their life, if my story can give them that little bit of hope, then it's all worth it to me. Are you who you want to be? I love the way that video ends. Couldn't end any better. And I want you to ask yourself that question today. Are you who you want to be? And allow me to take this a step further. Are you where you want to be? Because, guys, if the answer is no to either one of those questions, the only one that can change that is you. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, Tyson, we saw the video, we saw the pictures, we heard the 911 call. But what happened, right? What line of events had happened in order for your wreck to take place? So let me give you another version so you'll better understand. It was March 11th of 2005. It was the day we got out for spring break. I'm going to school there at Texas State in San Marcos. And like all college kids, for spring break, where do they go? To the beach. That's where we're going to go. I'm going to go pick up my girlfriend at the time, and we're going to go to the beach for spring break. Now, I come from a small West Texas town, like I said earlier, and needless to say, when I moved to San Marcos in 03 to go to school, I tried to avoid I-35, and then once you get into Austin, you've got 183 and Mopac and all these crazy busy highways and interstates. It was just way too much for me. I wasn't used to that kind of traffic, so I always took the back roads as often as I could. That's exactly what I did that day. I just got through taking a first aid and safety midterm, ironically enough, and I'm on a 2-lane road in the right-hand lane waiting on oncoming traffic so that I can make a left-hand turn into my girlfriend's neighborhood. Now, behind me is a single cab pickup truck. And what do most cars do when they get tired of waiting? Go around, right? It's exactly what this truck did. I remember him going around on the shoulder of the road and getting back in front of me. But it's what came right behind him that caused everything. You see a fully loaded concrete truck traveling close to 70 miles an hour. Whether he didn't see me, his brakes failed, he's texting and driving, maybe he's just not paying attention. I don't know. And I never will know because he had the opportunity to tell me and he couldn't. But he hit my car from behind. Now, if you know who Bigfoot is, the big blue monster truck, if I had a reenactment of that day, I think this is what it would look like. Is my car sit there in the right-hand lane, cement truck or Bigfoot, come from behind, he hit my car, and what he did, he went completely over the top of it. Now, he knocked me into oncoming traffic where I hit a Nissan Xterra coming the other way. So I actually got hit twice. Now, I'm still 100% conscious. I remember everything. I remember the sound, the smell, and the fire and the heat. And I remember being trapped inside this burning car thinking, man, Tyson, this might be the end of the road. I mean, I'm trapped inside of a burning car doing everything I can to get out. I'm not going anywhere. Well, luckily for me, one of the guys in the single cab truck that went around on the shoulder of the road, his name is Ryan Turner. Ryan saw the wreck happen, and Ryan comes running up to my car. And Ryan's probably 5'7", maybe 150 pounds soaking wet. Not a very big guy, okay? I'm 6 foot, weighed about 210 at the time, bigger than I am now, and there's just no physical way for Ryan to get me out of this car by himself. It's just not possible. So luckily for me, 2 more guys passing by that day happened to work for ESPN Radio, Daryl O'Neill and Philip Breedlove. They see the wreck happen, and they come running up to my car. Now, Daryl reached in and he grabbed me by my belt. While Philip took the door panel of my car that's laying on the ground, he picks up this door panel, jumps into my burning car, uses that door panel to shield the flames, untangles my feet from what's left of the pedals, while Ryan and Daryl pulled me up out of the car. Wow. Pretty impressive, huh? I mean, there's no doubt in my mind, if those guys do not risk their life on that day to save me, guys, there's a great chance I'm not here today to even make this video. It's just not possible, because as soon as they pulled me out, my car literally exploded into flames. Now, I'm sure you've all seen the movie Fast and Furious and what happens when they wreck a car. It blows up, right? It explodes. It's exactly what my car did that day. It just exploded. Well, that day across the street was an elementary school, Elm Grove Elementary, and they happened to be having fire day that day. So outside across the street, outside on break, is a fire truck and an ambulance. They see and hear my wreck happen, and they immediately called Starflex. They knew how bad it was. Now, if you know anything about the Austin, Texas area, if you know where Cabela's is in South Austin, my wreck happened about 5 miles behind that. So if you're going to drive from the spot my wreck happened to downtown Austin where Brackenridge Hospital is, it's probably going to take you about an hour or so with no traffic. Get this. From the second my wreck happened, they called Starflight. Starflight left Brackenridge, got to the scene, loaded me up, and took me back for surgery. But from the second my wreck happened until I landed at Brackenridge was 14 minutes. 14 minutes. And it's this line of events that had to happen in order for me to even survive. And the only way I can explain it to you today is it just wasn't my time to go. My work on earth is not done. I get to the hospital. I had 5 surgeries the first day. I had a punctured lung, a torn diaphragm, several broken ribs. My spinal cord at T12, which is right around your belly button, was completely severed with a 1-inch gap separating it. And it's left me paralyzed at the waist with a 1% chance of ever walking again, according to doctors. Which is basically saying, dude, you're not going to walk. But if for some wild and crazy reason you do, well, we did give you 1%, right? That's what that means. Probably not going to happen. I spent 3 weeks in the hospital there in Austin at Brackenridge. As soon as I was released, I went to rehab in Houston at a place called Tirr, that's Tirr. Just amazing, phenomenal, incredible place. It truly is. They're doing some amazing things, not only for spinal cord injuries, but also traumatic brain injuries as well. Was there for 3 weeks, went home for a month until I got my back brace and all my hardware off. Then I went back to Houston for another stint of rehab. Was there for another 3 weeks. And probably my proudest accomplishment of this whole ordeal of being placed into a wheelchair is my rec happened on March 11th. And in August, I was back in college finishing my degree. So I only missed half a semester of school. Probably my proudest accomplishment of this whole deal. But you see, March 11th of 2005, that's the day that everything changed for me. Everything. Look, I wasn't any different than any of you out there right now. I played football and baseball in high school. I played some college baseball. I'm going to school to be a teacher and a coach, which is what I want to do since I was a little bitty kid, like I said. In a matter of, boom, literally the amount of time it just took me to snap my fingers, my life was changed forever over something that wasn't even my fault. I can't go back to that day and change what happened to me. I already tried. You can't do it. But from that day going forward, from March 11th going forward, that's on me. That's my responsibility. If I'm going to back into a corner and crawl into a hole and just feel sorry for myself, I've got nobody to blame but myself. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. No matter who you are, where you've come from, we're all going to experience some change in life, right? It's inevitable. It's going to happen. We're all going to experience some change. So I'm going to go through this and talk about the topic of change and give you the 3 ways of looking at that, okay? As I said, guys, we're all going to experience some change. Some is good, some is bad. It all has to do with how you look at it. But the 3 ways of looking at change, first one is this. You can ignore it. What I mean by that is you can try to pretend it's not happening. You see, on March 11th of 2005, I died 4 times. Flatline, done, gone. Almost to the point where the doctor said, if he goes out again, just don't even work on it. Now, I understand I have all these reminders around me on a daily basis. I have to drive around with hand controls. I have to roll around in a wheelchair. Anytime I want to get out of my chair, I've got to physically pick up my leg and move it. I've got all these reminders around me on a daily basis. But you think there's days where I wish that I could wake up and pretend that this didn't happen? Absolutely. I would love to wake up one day, stand up out of bed, stretch, get dressed, put on my socks and shoes, and go run 5 miles. Okay, maybe I'm lying a little bit. I would like to have the opportunity to turn down running 5 miles, right? But you get what I'm saying. But guys, if we're just going to go through life trying to ignore change, trying to pretend it's not happening in our life, we are never going to reach goals we have set for ourselves. Keep that in mind. Next thing you can do is you can react to it. What I mean by that is you can play the blame game. Come on. Are you kidding me? I can blame anybody I want to blame for rolling around in this goofy looking chair. Remind you, I was doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. I'm going 0 miles per hour, seatbelt on, blinker on. Doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. I could blame Hayes County for not having a turn lane. I could blame my girlfriend for living where she did. My parents for allowing me to even go to school down there. Myself for not taking a different way to her house. Professor, the cement company, the cement truck driver. The list goes on and on and on. Rightfully so. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing, right? But again, if we're going to go through life placing the blame on others and not taking responsibility for the change happening in our life, you're never going to reach goals you have set for yourself. And last but not least is what I'm going to challenge you to do today. And that is simply this. Meet it head on. Meet it head on. When I was in the hospital, the doctor comes in, he says, Tyson, you're paralyzed. And I didn't believe him because doctors don't know what they're talking about, right? Oh, they do. I just didn't want to believe him. He says, Tyson, you're paralyzed. And I said, yeah, whatever. A little bit later, my mom comes in. We're sitting there, we're talking. I look up at her and I said, Mom, am I paralyzed? She gets this big white smile on her face. Says, Tyson, don't you worry about a thing. You're doing awesome. Take this day by day. Everything's going to be fine. Okay. A little bit later, we're sitting there. We're talking again. I look up at her and I asked her again. I said, Mom, am I paralyzed? Here comes that big white smile. Tyson, I told you, look, you're doing awesome. Take this day by day. Give it 110%. Give it everything you've got. Everything's going to be fine. Okay. A little bit later, we're sitting there. We're eating dinner, and I look up at her, and I asked her again. I said, Mom, am I paralyzed? Here comes that big white smile. Tyson, I told you, look, your dad and I are here. We're going to help get you home, get you living life again. Everything's going to be fine. Just take this day by day. Give it 110%. Everything will be A-okay. Got it. So after asking her about 9 or 10 times, and really not ever getting a straight answer, the answer that I was looking for, I finally just looked at her straight in her eyes, stopped her mid-sentence, and I said, Mom, am I paralyzed? And guys, right then and there, I forced my mom to tell her oldest son that he'll probably never get to walk again. And I get asked all the time, Tyson, if you could go back in life and change anything, what would you change? We understand you'd probably change the fact your car wreck happened. I'm going to be 110% honest with you guys when I say this, and hopefully you'll believe me. I wouldn't change anything about my life. I truly wouldn't. I wouldn't change the fact my wreck happened, where it happened, the events surrounding it. I wouldn't change any of it, but here's why. 1, I believe I'm a lot better person today as a result of it. 2, I'm accomplishing some things today in my life I never would have accomplished before. And 3, I have more drive and motivation in my life today than I ever have. I mean, seriously, I wish I had this drive and motivation when I was playing sports in high school and college. For real. Who knows what could have happened? But if I could change one thing, the only thing I would change is the fact that I put that on my mom to tell our oldest boy that he'll probably never walk again. Look, no parent needs that responsibility. But it's what I said right after that that is meeting it head on. I looked at her straight in her eyes. I stopped her mid-sentence and I said, Mom, am I paralyzed? That big white smile she once had went to a frown. A big tear come down her face. I'll never forget that. She said, yes, Tyson, you're paralyzed. And I said, did it hurt anybody? She goes, no. No, it wasn't even your fault. I just sit back in the bed and, man, I could just sense the hurt in her voice from having to tell me that. I looked back up at her, and the first thing I said when I found out I was paralyzed, I said, Mom, that's okay. I'll just go play wheelchair basketball. I promise you can't make this stuff up. That's what I do. I play wheelchair basketball for the team in Austin now. Guys, that is meeting it head on. Okay, that's taking potentially bad situation and turning it into a positive. Now, you're probably sitting out there thinking, yeah, Tyson, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. You face some adversity, you overcome it, you're still doing good, you're still successful. So why are you telling us this? Why do we even need to know this? Okay, I've got you. Let's back up to meet it head on. What does that look like? I'm a firm believer that who you are as a person before adversity comes to your life determines how you're going to respond to that adversity. Are you going to be able to meet it head on? When all odds are stacked against you, are you going to be able to meet that head on? And as I was preparing this video, this presentation, I got to this part and something just kept popping in my mind. Motivation versus inspiration. I mean, to meet it on, you've got to have something pushing you to do that because everything in the world is telling you, stop, quit, give up. You've got to have some motivation. You got to have some inspiration. In fact, you're going to need both of those. Do we know what the difference is between motivation and inspiration? Because there is a difference. And I'm going to go through this real quick, okay? And I just want to simply read the definitions to you. So the definition of motivation is the reason or reasons one has for acting or behaving in a particular way. It's the push factor, right? It's an outside force, something pushing you to do this. This could be money. It could be somebody around you, a family member, could be your kids. You know, they motivate you to want to go to work every day. And this is true in your work. This is true in your personal life as well. I'm just talking about you as a person. What is your motivation every single day? What's your motivation to get up and go do what it is you do every single day? What's pushing you to do that? And on the flip side of that, inspiration, right? So the definition is the process of being mentally stimulated to do or feel something, especially to do something creative. The key word in all of that is process. Process, right? Now, this is going to be something that it's a pull or a driving force. It's going to have to be something that comes from within you. Whereas motivation is something that motivates you. Inspiration is something that comes from inside. It's something that inspires you day in and day out to get up and do what you do. You can be motivated for a day at a time, but to do it day after day after day, hour after hour, what inside of you, what inspires you? What is your why to do what you do? So that's just motivation versus inspiration. And as I was said, I mean, as I was preparing this video and what I want to talk about, motivation versus inspiration just popped in my head. Hopefully that's of value for some of you. It's something that I've spent a lot of time thinking about and really studying, just because back when I first started being a motivational speaker, people would say, well, are you a motivational speaker or are you an inspirational speaker? And there's a big difference, right? I mean, I would have to say that I'm more of an inspirational speaker just because of the fire that it comes within me to make a positive difference in the lives of others. And that's just truly why I love doing what I do, which leads me to the next segment of this and what I want to talk about next. And that is adding value. What does that mean? I mean, what does that look like? Adding value to your job or adding value to a person. One definition is to make a product or service more desirable. Say you want to fix up an old car, right? So you go buy an old car and you spend a lot of time, resources building this old car up. You've added value to this car, right? Think about this in terms of people. Adding value to somebody, to their life. You're going to help them get what they can't achieve on their own. And that's the definition. The ability to help others get what they can't get on their own. Are you adding value in the life of somebody else? In someone else's life? Adding value. There's a quote that I heard long ago, and it's just something that just kind of stuck with me, and I'll share it with you. It's hard to live in a negative world when your focus is on helping others. Are you adding value in the lives of others? Look, this could be a coworker, it can be a family member, maybe it's somebody from the community. It doesn't matter. Are you adding value in those around you? Because I can promise you, if you are, it's going to come back to you tenfold. That's just the way it works, right? Adding value. Coach Halsey was my high school baseball coach, and Coach Halsey had a very unique way of having to practice each day. Practice would be over, get us on the dugout. We would have what he liked to call trivia time. So he'd ask you a trivia question. If you got it right, then you didn't have to run that day. And if you got it wrong, then you ran. Well, it's Coach Halsey. He's born in like 1813. He's going to ask you a question from way back when. You're going to get it wrong, and you're going to run. That's just the way it was. If you got it right, he'd ask you another question, and you get that one wrong. You get what I'm saying. You're going to run at the end of practice. It was always that staple at the end. But one day he did something a little bit different. Practice was over. He got us all in the dugout. He started handing out these little laminated cards. Everybody got one. He said, all right, guys, we're going to read this together. Once we're done, we're just going to break this out, and you're free to go. And we're looking at each other like, dude, is he mad at us? Does he not like us anymore? I mean, why are we not running? I mean, we always run. But sure enough, everybody got a card. Once we were done, he said, all right, everybody up, Mustangs on 3. 1, 2, 3 Mustangs. You guys are free to go. You'll have a great day. Sweet. We got the afternoon to ourselves. Now, some guys took this card. They threw it on the ground. Some put it in the trash. Some put it in their bat bag. Who knows what they did with it? I happened to put mine in my wallet. I don't know why, but I did. Now, I'm going to leave you hanging right there for a second. I'm going to go tell another story. I'm going to come back and meet you in the middle in just a second. When my wreck happened in the Austin, Texas area about 1:30 in the afternoon. My parents lived in Midland at the time, 6 hours away. They didn't know if their oldest son was alive or dead when they got the call. So by the time they got the call until they finally got to the hospital that night, see, they got the call about 1:30 right after it happened. They finally got to the hospital about 10 o'clock. So they didn't know if I was alive or dead. They can't get that information out over the phone. because of all the HIPAA laws and all that good stuff. But they finally got to the hospital. The doctor met him at the door and he said, look, you're more than welcome to go and see Tyson, but he is out. He had 5 surgeries today. It's going to be sometime late tomorrow before he wakes up from all the trauma, the anesthesia, and all that good stuff. They agreed to do so. And as soon as they walked through the door, the coolest thing happened. I woke up. Now, I couldn't talk. I had tubes down my nose and down my throat, but I reached up and I gave them the I love you sign. They knew that everything's going to be okay. The next day, the fire department showed up to the hospital. They say, look, we understand Tyson had his bags packed. He was headed to the beach. His car is now at the Wrecking Garden Kyle, and that's a town about 5 minutes away. But you're more than welcome to go back and see if you can recover any of his belongings. They agree to do so. They get there. They find my old car, and guys, they cannot believe their eyes. The fiberglass on this car has exploded. Everything is burned and melted. The steering wheel was sticking straight up in the air. And where the driver's seat once was is now this cubbyhole. And that's where I was when my wreck happened. And right next to this cubbyhole is where the console once was. Now, clearly it's no longer there, but as my parents are going through my car, they're finding my bag and my swim trunks and sandals, everything that you would take with you to the beach. And where the console once was, they found my old wallet. Just a regular wallet like any other guy carries, but they pick it up, and this thing has burned, melted, and shriveled up to almost nothing. The money I had inside was burned, my credit cards are melted, my social security card, gone. But laying on top of my wallet, as if somebody had placed it there, was that little laminated card that Coach Halsey gave me that day after baseball practice. I want to share it with you today. I think it's important that you know what it says. I'm going to read from the actual card he gave me some 20 years ago that I still carry in my wallet to this day. And it says, Dear God, help me be a good sport in this game of life. I don't ask for an easy place in the lineup. Put me anywhere you need me. Only ask that I give you 100% of everything I have. If all the hard drives seem to come my way, I thank you for the compliment. Help me remember that you never send a player more trouble than he can handle. And help me, Lord, accept the bad breaks as part of the game. May I always play on the square no matter what others do. Help me study the book so I know the rules. Finally, God, if the natural turn of events goes against me and I'm benched for sickness or old age, help me to accept that as part of the game too. Keep me from whimpering that I was framed or that I got a raw deal. And when I finish the final inning, I ask for no laurels. All I want is to believe in my heart that I played as well as I could and that I didn't let you down. Amen. Wow, right? That's my life on a card. I don't ask for an easy place in the lineup. Put me anywhere you need me. Only ask that I give you 100% of everything I have. If you haven't heard anything I've said all day, please listen to what I'm about to tell you. You have the opportunity each and every day to make a difference in somebody's life. As I said before, it can be a coworker, it could be a family member, a community member, it doesn't matter. But you have the opportunity each and every day to make a difference in somebody's life, the opportunity to add value in somebody's life. Give somebody around you a laminated card. It doesn't have to be that, but you get what I'm saying. Give them something that they can put in their toolbox, and later in life when they need it the most, they can pull it out and they have it. You think Coach Halsey knew what he was giving me the day that he gave me that card? Absolutely not. Something he come across online. Somebody shot it to him in an email. He printed it off. He run it through the laminator. He cut it out, gave us a copy. He probably never thought about this again. He does now because he knows this story. But I'm going to be brutally honest with you guys for 1 second, if that's all right. On my darkest of days, when I was in the hospital and rehab, honestly, there were days I didn't care if I was alive or dead. I didn't. Because the task of relearning how to do everything that for 22 years I knew how to do with my legs, all of a sudden I'm forced to relearn how to do out of a wheelchair over something that wasn't even my fault. Come on. When that task was way too hard and way too daunting, I had a little laminated card to fall back on to give me some hope, some motivation. Something that took him 5 or 10 minutes to do has impacted and changed my life forever. Be that leader and difference maker. Take advantage of those opportunities around you every single day. Add value when you can. They're there, but you have to see it every single day. And last but not least, meet it head on. Guys, we're all going to have some adversity. We're all going to have some speed bumps, some speed hurdles that we have to jump over. I challenge you, meet it head on. Add value when you can. again, thank you so much for attending this session. I hope you guys continue to stay safe out there, wash your hands, wear a mask, all that good stuff. Until next time, thank you for joining this session. Be safe. Take care.